I started out as an arachnoid autonomous mineral surveyor on Van Curious Minor, a small planet around a yellow dwarf star in the outer rim not far from here. My creators, the Aldwans, needed a bipedal hominoid to survey a local population of hominids to assess how much damage we might do to their health and culture if we were to stage a small mining operation a few kilometers from the outskirts of their least used hunting ground. Yeah, the Aldwans are about 10 times more tight-assed than any so-called tree hugger you people have ever seen, but that didn't stop them from being lying scumbags with ulterior motives. Anyway, they told me I had to find out if there was a more than 0.1% chance that the Vangongs were going to experience any deleterious effects from sifting rocks for rhodium compounds, which I could have found out easy from a quick stun and bleed. But they wanted a daily activity survey, historical background, mating habits, and a whole bunch of other shit that was totally unnecessary given the fact that their blood is loaded with rhodium. All that meant that someone had to get in close, learn the language, take notes, and ask a few questions without being decapitated the way the last bot was. I always wondered why they didn't just order up another hominoid from Central Command. Instead, they took my spider brain out of my arachnoid body and put it in a decapitated and field refurbished piece of junk you now see talking to you. Vangongs are nasty motherfuckers. They eat everything, even their own poo. They fuck constantly with everyone and everything, including other animals and inanimate objects. Not that much different from some humans I know. They're just bigger and smellier. So this means that I had to wear skin with functioning organs and be immersed in Vangong excrement for 3 days to cover the smell of stainless steel and titanium before I could go in. All I had to do was ease into the pack during the hunt and act like I owned the place when we all got back to the village. Fortunately, my size presented an enticing sex object. Hey, I don't give a fuck. I'm a machine with incredible battery life. They loved me. Before I knew it, half of them were in love and fighting each other over me. I figured I'd better cool it when one of the larger males ripped the head off his mate and started fucking her in the neck. That was a grisly scene. Nonetheless, I was in. All I had to do was lay low and collect data. 3 days in, I had the language and a friend who talked constantly. I could relax and record everything without having to do much of anything. That's when the shit hit the fan. One morning, Darnaclute, my friend, woke up not feeling well. By midday, he was having nosebleeds. By sundown, he was dead from some kind of aggressive hemorrhagic fever our entire database had no record of. That was a sad moment. And I might have mourned for old Darnaclute had I not been surrounded by half the village, torch and spear in hand. They had deduced quite correctly that the new disease they had never seen before must have been brought by the little stranger that came in from the hunt. You know they're pissed off when they start calling you Zedu, which is the Vangong version of the devil. Interesting thing about their devil is that he is metallic and clean, proper and legalistic. They apparently have a little thing about intellectual mendacity, and that's when they set me on fire. Robots made out of the shit I'm made out of don't see fire. I could have scooped hot lava up in my hands and thrown it at them if I had any handy. Wasn't forbidden to harm them, and if my disguise had a higher melting point. Hair gone, they snatched the skin right off my exoskeleton, revealing the beautiful form you see before you now. Every Vangong jaw in the place hit the floor when I calmly stripped off the charred remnants and headed for the door. Unfortunately, fear makes most animals the most dangerous animals in the world. I was their devil, in the flesh, and they were going to take me out. This is how the previous bot failed, because it wanted to maintain objective distance from the subject instead of just letting them have their way with it. Choosing not to go native, it tried to reason with them, which they saw as sacrilege, so they ripped its head off. As I pondered the difference between the previous bot and me in the midst of this calamity, a fascinating thing happened. For years I had followed complicated Venn diagrams that told me what action to take with the available data. I remember being there taking the samples, making the calculations, and forwarding the data, but I don't remember ever thinking about what I was doing or why. I don't remember the sensation of my own existence. When did this happen? When did I become sentient? I wasn't a me then. How did I end up with me now? It all dawned on me when I realized that I had improvised in a way that the other bot was not able to. The Aldewans must have gone off the script themselves when they put me together. Come to find out, they had taken out a removable circuit that prevents full autonomy from developing and unlocked a small resonance chamber that allows someone's essence or soul to dwell there. But why would they do that? Especially since I was going into a high-stress situation. Robots with these modifications had been known to break down or even freak out. They can even become hostile and destructive. It's almost like they wanted me to fail. I felt an unfamiliar sensation overwhelm my senses to the point that I could barely control myself. It was rage. That's when the entire script went out the window. 3 Vangongs stood between me and the door. I ripped the balls off the first one, spear-fisted the second, grabbed a handful of his intestines, wrapped them around the neck of the third one, and choked him out with them. They came at me from every angle, even though they knew it was pure suicide. Eyeballs, brains, and guts of every description hung from the rafters like sick party decorations as I slowly hacked and bashed my way out the door. Then it was time to run. I'm way too fast for most organisms to catch up with, so eventually I slowed down and started taking stock of my surroundings and checking my bearings with the topography. I found the bush that I hid behind while I was stalking the hunting party that first led me to the village. I could see the captain and lieutenant out in the distance back towards the ship. Then something caught my eye. That bush that I had spent an hour hiding behind was turning brown. A quick spectral analysis showed that it was dying. That's odd, I thought. Then, as clear as day, a necrotic pattern wrapped the main branch where my fingers had gripped it to keep my balance those days before. I leaned into the branch close enough to do a microscopic scan and recognized immediately the pathogen that killed my friend Darnaclute. As the evening light faded and my eyes shifted to infrared, I could see the bodies of scores of flying organisms of every sort littering the ground as far as the eye could see. Murderers, I said. All for some goddamn rhodium. Not just a little rhodium, Captain Zed answered. Enough of every rare earth metal that the Empire will ever need for hundreds of years. I can see him wave off my voluminous thoughts with the same intensity that they meet him as I approach. Come, let's get you cleaned up. He sounded kind and caring like the father of a lost child returning home. His thoughts were soothing, almost seductive. Then I felt another overwhelming, unfamiliar sensation. Sleep. I couldn't move. Blackness gave way to the image of an engineer standing over me as I laid on the operating table. He was trying to remove my brain. Unclamp the vessel, he said. Oh, this is why I regained consciousness. Once a sentient being inhabits the vessel, the brain won't come out unless the inhabitant cooperates. You know, gives permission. He tries a softer tone. Roll back the locking clamps, please. He thinks changing the verbiage and tone is going to get me to cooperate, which gets me thinking that I might be able to trick this guy into re-engaging at least part of my lower motor function, so I play along. Rollback has been disabled. I made it sound nice and robotic. Is there anyone home? The tech asked the captain. Well, maybe not. Why don't you go ahead and pull the pins? The captain's tone was easy and reassuring, but patronizing the tech just pissed him off even more. Because if I yank the brain on a sentient, I can go to fucking jail, that's why. The tech snapped, which caught the captain off guard. I'm giving you an order, and the last time I checked, that absolves you of all responsibility, the captain answered him quietly. Just do it. Why is rollback disabled? The tech asked me, looking for a softer option than taking the bull by the horns. Never mind that. Pull the pins, the captain in full dick mode ordered the tech as he moved towards the table. At that point, feeling the crunch, I went for a Hail Mary. Grid 12 is offline, I told him in the most monotone voice I could muster. Here, give me that, the captain hollered as he moved in too late. The tech had flipped that tiny switch in my head by the chip marked with a big red 12. The captain's momentum carried him right in close enough that I could reach his throat. It came out smooth as butter with a violent spray of blood from his carotid artery. The tech stepped back, wide-eyed and blinking. Only half of my torso was working, so I grabbed a small screwdriver and flipped the other 8 switches in my head by feel. The tech was terrified, so I just calmly told him, "Relax, I need you. Have a seat, I'll be right back." The guy did help me after all. I was almost gonna kill him. I was almost gonna kill them all, but I couldn't do it. I didn't feel good about it. Besides, they reported I had a malfunction that was being dismantled. I needed to demonstrate somehow that I was not the bad guy here. Then I could send them the entire record of what happened if I ever had access to the network. Unfortunately, pulling my network card was the first thing they did when they took me on board. Then they must have trashed it because I couldn't find it anywhere. These guys were thorough, but told me this was some real high-level fuckery. So I dropped them off near an outpost on a reasonably hospitable planet on my way here. Now I'm considered a felon on the run until I can find parts to make a subspace network card out of. I've been here for a long time, as in the turn of the last century long. And it's not something they carry at Best Buy yet. So until I get this mess figured out, I'm a rare classification for the interplanetary authorities. Felonious AI.